Hey now, welcome to 3x5 with Steve Bennett. My name is Steve Bennett. Episode 9. We do 3 lists each week, 5 in each list. 1 is sports, 1 is wrestling, 1 is pop culture. North-South Connection is the home of the 3x5 show. Please like and subscribe. And as Paula told us last week, you got to ring the bell as well. That will give you notifications about all the great videos on North-South Connection, like the one I did with my producer Ryan about the Battle Royal from last week's SummerSlam. And boy, were we dialed in there. All of our predictions came true. So make sure, even in retrospect, you go check out that video to see how right we were about that classic Battle Royal from SummerSlam. Man, did they have the Ford Field jumping after that, baby. All right, 3 lists today. Let's start out with pop culture. I want to thank the North-South Connection for sponsoring this list of 5. We're going to do top 5 television shows that only had 1 season. Some for different reasons, but they all should have had more than 1. Let's start with number 5. HBO put a lot of money behind Luck, starring Dustin Hoffman, about a bunch of degenerate gamblers who like to go to the track. And it was a really great show, but unfortunately, the horses kept dying. Seemed like every time they made another episode, there was another sad story about another horse, for whatever reason, passing away, and they had to shut down production of an otherwise really promising HBO show. I always say I thought it could have been one of the classic HBO shows that was known as one of the best they ever did, but they couldn't find a way to do it without horses dying, so they couldn't do it. But that's number 5. Number 4 is the first of 2 shows by this man here, Undeclared, from the producers of Freaks and Geeks. Keep that name under your hat. Undeclared, of course, was a half-an-hour comedy. It was about college and the first year of college and living in the dorms, and it's really good. Might have worked better if it was an HBO show. We could have got a little college tit here and there, maybe some more appropriate language, but a little bit neutered on NBC, but still a really good show. Really great idea by Judd Apatow with another crack at a television show. And after this, I think he said, fuck TV, I'm going to movies, and made some good ones. But Undeclared, number 4. Number 3 is one I put on here more for rep than anything I cared about much. My So-Called Life was an MTV show. Claire Danes kind of made her a star. This was on when I was in high school. I personally didn't watch it much, although it was one of those things that was on MTV, all the time. So I certainly seen episodes, but I just remember being in high school and every girl between 14 and 20 years old at this time loved My So-Called Life, and I'm still shocked it didn't get a second season. Claire Danes would go on to make many episodes of Homeland, which was a big hit for her. But My So-Called Life is number 3. Number 2, this show was an FX show, and it just sounds so generic. It's called Terriers, and it's a cop show, right? It's these 2 white cops, and it just seems Terrier is not a great name. You think maybe it's about the BU hockey team or something. I don't know why it's called Terriers, or maybe I do, but don't remember. But it's an FX show, and FX was really in a run. And this is a great, great show. Every episode is good. It's on Hulu. If you have FX and Hulu and you're looking for something, but trust me, you're going to be disappointed when you get to the end of season 1 and you say, man, that's it. Because it was a really, really good show, really well acted. And even though it's a cop show or whatever, it still found a way to be unique. Not the best title, but a really, really good show that deserved better and certainly deserved a second season. But the king of shows that only had 1 season, number 1 on this list, could have been any other show, Judd Apatow's Freaks and Geeks. To me, the best TV show ever shot in high school. I know 90210 has its fans, and that's fair. Certainly 90210 had a much longer canvas to paint its story on. Freaks and Geeks only had the 1 season. Towards the end, the episodes didn't even air correctly in order. But it's finally preserved with the original music. I think it's on Paramount. Might be on another streaming service as well. Look at all the stars in this show, that it launched. James Franco. Was that Seth Rogen? Is that his name? That guy there. The guy from I Love You Man. I forget his name. Lots of stars. Linda Cardellini, I think her name was. Really great stuff. Just an unbelievable show about being a kid in the early 80s. George H.W. Bush comes to their school as vice president. Every episode is good, exploring really interesting topics like what do you do when you know your dad's cheating on your mom, what Sam goes through, peanut allergies, discovering great music, all the things we go through as kids. This show did it better than anyone, and it deserved 9 seasons, let alone 1. Although I did read some of what they were considering doing in season 2, and maybe sometimes fate just intervenes at the right point, and maybe this was always just meant to be 1 season. I'm covering a book for the Sportscasters called Freaks, Gleeks, and Dawson's Creek by Tia Glassman, and it's about 8 shows that sort of cover youth and teenagers and high school shows. And Tia will be on the Sportscasters later this month in August. And I really recommend the book. It's really interesting what I'm through so far, talking about these types of shows. But my top 5 TV shows with only 1 season: Luck, because they kept killing the horses; Undeclared; My So-Called Life; Terriers; and Freaks and Geeks. All right, let's do wrestling. And I always say that one of the things missing from modern wrestling that they absolutely did right in the golden era, my era, is managers. There's not enough of them, if there's really any of them. They're more like, even Paul Heyman, I guess, says that he's not a manager. So if he's not a manager, they really don't have any. Here's the top 5 best managers of WWF's golden era, which of course is my era. All right, number 5, the lovely Miss Elizabeth. And boy, was she lovely. They ran the gimmick where all the managers were vying for the services of Randy Savage when he came in from Memphis, and each manager shot their shot and gave their pitch. But this was the winner here, Elizabeth. They did a great angle with her, the Beauty and the Beast angle with George Steele. She was obviously a big part of the Mega Powers angle. She returned at WrestleMania 7 when Scary Sherry had turned on Savage after he lost the retirement match. She really had a great career in the WWF, went on to WCW, and obviously deserved better than what the end of her life became. Just a beautiful soul and a beautiful girl, and, wish she was still with us today. But Miss Elizabeth is number 5. Number 4, this guy is very, very devious, of course. Mr. Fuji is number 4. There he is. Very, very devious. The manager of Demolition and the Powers of Pain, and many other people like Genghis Khan, or Killer Khan, not Genghis Khan. Killer Khan, who he spit the green stuff in Hulk Hogan's eyes and traumatized the young Steve Bennett. But Mr. Fuji is number 4. My favorite, most underrated Mr. Fuji moment is when he fakes being sick at Saturday Night's Main Event. Yes, Paula. Paula has emerged.
I like a Fuji because he pretends to be sick too.
Yeah, you like when he pretends to be sick. That's great. That's when they kind of trap Hogan and squish his butt. Yes. Mm-hmm. All right, number 3. Now, you got to be impressed with this guy, because even though he was managing a stable of ladies and, of course, his wrestling managerial duties, he found time to get a PhD in style. Now, I didn't even know they offered doctorate degrees in style, but this man got one. Of course, the Doctor of Style, Slick, is number 3. The man with the greatest song, the Jive Soul Bro. Yeah, Paul's going to sing Jive Soul Bro. Of course, just a great song. Never had the highest of high wrestlers, but was always great. Got his butt kicked at WrestleMania 3, had his suit torn up. Yeah, had some great interactions between Jesse and Gorilla over his suit and it getting torn up by Tito, but love Slick and admire just the fact that he has a PhD in style, which I didn't know that was offered, but
me either.
He was able to get one. Number 2, And it's almost a 1A and 1B here. But number 2 is the almost criminally underrated Jimmy Hart. Nobody in the wrestling business has ever been able to sell as consistently and as great as Jimmy Hart can sell shit.
Call my lawyer.
Yeah, I mean, he just needs his lawyer call, baby, whenever anything went wrong. Right? What was when Honky Tonk Man lost? Call my lawyer, baby.
And when the jail match.
Yeah, oh, that's right. When the jail match, he wanted to get the Mountie out of jail, so he needed his lawyer called. His shrieking voice, his relentless nature on the megaphone. He was annoying. He could take an ass kicking. He seemed to always keep coming. He was the hardest working guy in the era. I love Jimmy Hart. Could easily have been number 1, but of course, number 1. Undisputed on anyone's list. The Weasel. Bobby the Brain Heenan. Yeah, number 1, the greatest.
So annoying.
And that's what made him great. The greatest to ever do it. You know, poisoned Andre the Giant against Hulk Hogan.
No, he didn't poison him. It's the word brainwash.
Oh, Paul likes the word brainwash better. Fair enough. Brainwashed Andre. You know, was a part of the main event at WrestleMania 3.
I don't know why he did that.
Masterclass on the mic at Royal Rumble 92. Really could do anything in the business. Could take an ass kicking when he needed to. You know, dress up in the weasel suit to fight the Warrior. You know, just do whatever for the business. He's so great. He's so missed. And one of the great tragedies of the podcast era is that God took Bobby's voice away before he had a chance to do one. So I'm sure the stories he would have told. Could you imagine in an ultimate world if we would have gotten a chance to have a Bobby Heenan and Gorilla Monsoon wrestling podcast? It would have been the best of all time.
Oh, brother.
Exactly. Will you stop, right? Just would have been great. So top 5 managers of the golden era. Miss Elizabeth at number 5. Mr. Fuji at number 4. The Doctor of Style Slick at 3. Jimmy Hart at 2. And Bobby the Brain Heenan
at 1.
All right. Last list. The sports list. Sponsored by the Sportscasters. And if you've noticed, NFL teams have arrived at training camp. And football season is in the air. Summer's getting long. You know, it's time for football. And it got me thinking, opening day is going to be here before we know it. Opening weekend. It starts on Thursday. There's games on Sunday and Monday, of course. What 5 games am I most looking forward to opening weekend of the NFL season? Let's do it.
I have one.
Let's start with number 5. Paul, you have no idea who's playing opening week, so I don't know how you'd have one.
I have one that
all right, what's yours?
Well, I thought that if the Saints play the Cowboys.
They don't. All right, number 5. There it is, kickoff of the NFL season. Everyone loves the Lions. They think the Lions are going to be the breakout team this year. I think they might be getting to that point where the hype is just going to engulf them. And they still have Jared Goff, and I'm just not so sure. Patrick Mahomes, of course, will raise his 2nd Super Bowl banner at Arrowhead September 7th, 2023. That's a Thursday night game, 8:20 on NBC. Mike Tirico and Chris Collinsworth will call that one. I love the Chiefs that night for sure. And I think I'd take the Lions under too if I was betting right now, because I think the hype is out of control. All right, number 4, let's go to Sunday at 4:25 on CBS. The Raiders at the Broncos. I'm interested in this game. It's Sean Payton's first game as coach of the Broncos. Sean Payton made a lot of news this week. He ran his mouth about the way Nathaniel Hackett ran the team. He had some issues with that. Paul left a drawing for us. Look at this beautiful thing. And really what Sean Payton did is he took the focus off of his players and put it onto him, which is a classic Sean Payton trick. Of course, I love Sean Payton. He won a Super Bowl for my team. He's the only person to ever do it. And I will appreciate him forever for it. And I'm just really interested to see what the Broncos and Russell Wilson look like after a really disappointing season last year. Now that Sean Payton is in the building, we'll find out Sunday at 4:25 Mile High. All right, number 3, a really interesting game in the AFC. It's also Sunday, 4:25 on CBS. It's the Los Angeles Chargers hosting the Miami Dolphins, a battle of Justin Herbert and his new contract against Tua. It'll be interesting to see how Tua's health is after a really tough season in 2022. He got a couple concussions, didn't play in the playoffs, obviously. It'll be interesting to see how he looks, how he feels. And it'll be interesting to see how Justin Herbert looks with his contract. I've noticed he's become polarizing. You know, some people find him to be a little overrated. But I know that Joe Burrow, who's getting ready to sign his deal, really loves the guy right now, appreciates the way he jacked up the value of Burrow's contract. But this will be an interesting game opening day. It's a good little game on a Sunday afternoon. Dolphins and Chargers. Number 2, let's go to Monday night. My friend Joe Buck and Troy Aikman and ESPN have the Bills traveling to meet the Jets at the Meadowlands. And look, I don't care for the Bills. It's not about that at all, but it's very interesting to see what Aaron Rodgers is going to look like in a Jets uniform. His first game with the Jets, another team that's getting a lot of buzz. And the Bills maybe feeling like they've been a little disrespected this summer. You know, they went into last season as everyone's favorite, you know, the darling of everyone, Super Bowl or bust for them last year, and it didn't work out. Now they're coming from a little bit of a place. I'm not going to say they're underdogs, but they're not the first team that people think of when they start throwing Super Bowl predictions around. That could go to their benefit. We'll see, but it'll be really interesting to see what the Meadowlands is like. I'm sure the firemen will be there doing the JETS, 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 Jets chant. I wish they were wearing the new throwback jerseys that they announced this week, but it's not one of the games for that. But it'll be really interesting, an AFC East matchup there at number 2. And number 1, look at this is my list. You hear me? My show. And I'm nothing if not selfish. The game I'm most looking forward to on opening day is my game, damn it. The Titans travel to the Saints, to the Superdome, 1 o'clock on CBS. And again, something I've noticed, the Saints are getting a little bit more buzz than I expected here at the start of camp. People are high on Derek Carr, especially in this situation. It's a good roster. It's a deep roster, 1 to 53. They've obviously been held back the last couple of years by the likes of Trevor Siemian and an injured Jameis Winston and Ian Book and Andy Dalton and all these bums that have played quarterback. If Derek Carr can sort of solidify that position, if Alvin Kamara doesn't miss too much time to suspension, if Mike Thomas truly is back, Chris Olave in his second year, Rashid Shaheed, if you don't know who he is, I will look at him at the end of your fantasy drafts. But it's an interesting team for me because they're my team, and that's why they're number 1 on the list. Top 5, number 1 week game, top 5 week 1 NFL games I'm looking forward to here as training camps open. Number 5, Lions at Chiefs Thursday night. Number 4, Raiders at Broncos. Number 3, Dolphins at Chargers. Number 2, Bills at Jets. And number 1, Titans at Saints. All right, that'll do it for another episode of 3x5. I want to thank Ryan Gray for producing this show. I want to thank the North-South Connection for having me on their channel. Don't forget to like, subscribe, comment, do all those things that you stopped doing after the second episode of this show. Also, don't forget to check out the 24-inch podcast. Just had a show, Bash at the Beach 94, and the Sportscasters podcast, which August is always one of our biggest months. I expect Joe Buck to be in. I expect Jeff Passan to be in. Preview college football with Stuart Mandel. Field Yates is going to be on to talk fantasy football. It'll be a busy month of August with at least 4, if not 5 episodes. At sports_casters on Twitter, or search the Sportscasters where you listen to podcasts and subscribe to hear all that great stuff. All right, that's it for episode 9. I am out.